Welcome everyone to the Market Lead Google Ads, Paid Ads and Landing Page channel. I'm reviving it now because I need to start putting out content because people have been DMing me about not having videos. So I just thought today I would have one of my best friends in the world, Max Andersson from Simba Digital, located in Geneva, Switzerland, on the call today. Now, Max and I have been friends for how long? Is it like 7 years?
Yeah, I
6
guess,
years?
right? It's been 7 years, I guess.
Yeah, and we used to work at a previous agency together for a bit of time. I actually don't think it was that long,
No, it
although,
wasn't that long. It must have been maybe max 6 months, something like that.
yeah, wow.
During my trip in Australia.
Yeah, and then we've just become really, really, really close friends over the last few years, especially as we're both running agencies, uh, Google Ads or digital ads agency, and then Max has got a digital agency as well. And every fortnight, if we actually show up, or every month, we actually chat about the real stuff of having an agency. So today we're actually going to talk to you about the real bullshit of running an agency, but the real stuff that you've got to deal with. So that's my little intro. Max, how's life, mate?
Man, it's doing pretty good. Let's say the this part of the year is really quite hectic for us. You know, it's the end of the summer. People are back into real life. Let's say, so a lot of stuff going on. A lot of new leads coming in. All the project management, all the new projects preparing for Q4. So it's a pretty hectic time of the year, actually. But it's interesting because as we've spoken about before, we had a pretty rough start of the year, and I feel like a lot of companies in this area at least had a pretty rough start to the year due to economic downturns and whatnot. It then picked up pretty well in spring, and summer's been doing well, and actually has been pretty also intense. Like I was surprised. Usually summer really calms down over here for about
Yeah.
3 to 4 weeks, and it hasn't done that this year. It's been continuing going on, and now it's picking up again even more. So excited about the last run until the end of the year.
Nice, man. Nice. That's awesome to
What
hear
about you?
because,
What about you?
yeah,
You're still
um,
in winter time, right?
just coming out of it. It's sunny spring today, and I have not been productive today because I've actually just been outside on phone calls all day. I was chatting to Jack, who's like the senior on like the senior specialist in our team, but also the head of fulfillment. And I was just going through my diary today. I'm like, dude, I've done like no client work or no, I've just been talking to clients, like big clients or people who we've got really strong business partnerships with, and just walking in the sun, laughing, having a great day. So winter's
Awesome.
ending, spring is here, life is good. And similar to you, we've just had a really interesting last few months, which I've probably told you about. About a month and a half ago, I was on break, and then some really stressful stuff happened in the company. Like we onboarded some clients, were not probably the right fit clients, and because of that, it really took the energy, focus, and emotions away from team members. And good news is, as of today, we've fired two of those clients. It's the first time I've actually fired clients, which was nice. Now, the most
Congrats, man.
important thing is I've made it seem like their it was their choice. So obviously framed in a way where they got to choose. But that was a big thing because it was taking a lot of energy away from us. So it's really yeah, I just feel like I feel good now because it feels like the lower quality parts of the old phases of our business have been cut off now, and we're only working with really good high quality clients doing the services we offer within the scopes that we've agreed to, and the new business opportunities coming through are like exactly the type of clients we want to work with. So I feel really positive about the future now moving forward, and it's just good. It's just
That's
good.
awesome, man. It's a discussion. Very interesting that you're saying this because it's a discussion that I had with my team. I think this was last Friday about a client that we were discussing. Should we keep them or not? And this was a real argument, within the team because
Yeah,
there's different parts of it, right? And the reason I brought this up with them was they were supposed to have a meeting with this client, and the client didn't show up, which happens, but it's always
yeah,
super annoying. But in this case, it happened. But when it happened, the two people who were supposed to be in that meeting came to me, and they were happy that the meeting was not going to happen because they didn't actually want to have that meeting with that client.
yeah, yeah,
And I looked at them, I was like, why are we still working with these guys if you don't even want to meet them? Like,
yeah,
what is the point? And the campaigns were not doing really well. The relationship wasn't really good. I was like, let's just stop, right? And I discussed this with them, and I said, if you're not enjoying this, if you're sort of making fun of their business or their campaigns because they had produced visuals that were really bad, and we gave them a lot of advice that they didn't listen to, and all of these sort of red flags that at some point you just shouldn't keep it going.
Yeah.
But then there's always the argument, well, it's a client, we're doing the campaigns, we're getting the money. It's still, life's pretty good. It's not the end of
Yeah.
the world. It's not like we hate them or that it's going awfully bad or whatever. I was like, yeah, but it's draining energy from you guys. And I can see it every time you're talking about that client, every time you're going into a meeting with them. It's like there's this stressful thing going on. There's this bad energy and you're not feeling well. And they said, well, yeah, you're right, but we still want to keep it going. And it's probably going to end anyway because the client's going to leave.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's probably the worst way to end a relationship.
Yeah.
It's better to tell them, that we want to leave or that this isn't working
Yeah.
out. Well, that's an interesting part as well that we could discuss. How do you actually end that relationship? Because you said
Yeah.
you made it seem that it was their decision. I think that's a good way to do it. But how do you do that? Anyway, long story short, it ended up being them canceling that relationship too.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's almost empowering also to have that possibility of saying, hey guys, this isn't going very well. This isn't really a good fit. Okay, we've tried. This isn't, this
Yeah.
isn't going anywhere. Let's just stop. The fear was that if we do that, they will say that we're basically giving up on them and that we're not competent enough to help them actually reach their goals, which I can understand that argument too. So it's pretty tough, right, to make that decision how to do it. But I think you've done really well to sort of get rid of those clients. I'm happy that we're not their agency anymore too, and trying to keep only clients that you actually really want to work for, that you're getting positive energy from. And even if you have to spend, extra hours and more time on them, you're happy that it works. You're happy that the campaigns produce results. All of this makes it so much better for everybody. So I think it's huge. It's a huge part of the agencies, and so many agencies keep the clients for the money and not for the relationship and the energy that it brings.
Yeah.
So it's a tough decision to make, but I think you have to if you want to grow and scale in a good way.
Mate, you've just mentioned a lot of gold there. And I think there's multiple angles. Number one, if you really trust your team, not like your team, but trust your team, and they're coming to you with that feeling, trust it. Because if they're not liking the client, it means something's wrong. Now, there's multiple things that can actually trickle down from that. Number one, if you've got like them managing 10 clients, 20 clients, that one client will take away 80% of the focus and energy that they can allocate to the other clients. So actually, in terms of resourcefulness, it's actually a poor allocation of resources. Secondly, it loses morale in the team. We've worked at agencies that happens. The other thing is it's really breaking away from this mindset of keeping the client at all costs. Now, I've worked at 3 agencies where the attitude was keep the client at all costs. That was it. So when I've started my own agency, I thought when clients are leaving or they're not the right fit, hold on to them. Now, that's just the mindset that agencies have. Now, there are a lot of good agencies out there, and I feel like we're one of them now. And really, I mean it. I'm being honest right now. We were working with clients where we were like doing good work, but we were just like, I don't know if it's just their business or we're not the right fit for them. But now it's just like, I've literally gone to those clients, we're not the right fit for you. Basically saying, we can't work with you anymore. Because the truth is, we're not the right fit for them. If we don't believe that we can get the results now or in the future, I don't want to work with them because that's just time and energy and mental RAM that's being taken away. And the reality is, when you're a small freelancer and you're starting off, you take on work and you grind and you hustle and you will sometimes get the results. And then there comes a point where we're at small agencies but working with big clients where you can start to go, no, like this isn't good. The next level is when you become a big agency and you're just like, we need to hit a revenue number. No clients cancel, they stay in contracts. And I'm proactively making sure right now that we do not take on any single client where I have the inkling that they're not the right fit, purely because it's not that I have some magical intuition. It's just like, I just don't want to put that on my team that if I'm not 1,000% confident that we can make a huge impact, it's a no. Purely because like, we've got scarce resources in the company. We've got certain people doing certain roles. They're being paid very well. They're doing a very specific thing. I just need to make sure that the client and us like fit together perfectly, like Lego blocks, rather than us trying to like make it fit type of thing. So I think now, and it seems like you're doing it even with that client, yes, they may leave, but you can make them proactively do it as well, because that could be a month of resources and time and energy that one, your team's wasting on that. And then number two is that if you don't create a space, like if you don't cut those clients off and create space, you're not creating space for those new clients to come in, and just having that trust and faith of,
Yeah.
we know what we're doing. And the more you cut away the bad clients and work on the good clients, they're going to refer you clients like them that pay the same or better and have a similar expectation. So you've got to do it to also, it's really for medium and long-term future of just like growing your agency. So
Yeah, and
that's my little rant there.
I know I agree 100% with you, and I get two thoughts from that. The first is really to what you just said. It's almost like recruiting someone within your team,
Yeah.
because when you recruit someone and that person's toxic, you're wasting time, you're wasting money, you're spending money recruiting that person, you're getting that person onboarded. That takes time, it costs money. That person then becomes toxic within the company. They sort of destroy the morale of other people. The work isn't doing as good, and then at the end you have to fire them and you have to start again. It's exactly
Yeah.
the same thing with the clients.
Yeah. And
If you're
you've done
getting
that more than me. I've
Yeah,
been like,
right.
I've hired the best person I know. He's my best friend, and I've hired an awesome executive assistant who's amazing. So I haven't gone through that yet. I've had the client burn it and clients do bullshit. And then I've also had firing clients now. I haven't had the team member yet. So
It's obviously different, but it's sort of the same idea, right? Because the clients in our agency sizes is you're almost part of their team. So it's you're communicating with them every week. You're seeing them quite often. Like if the relationship isn't good and it is a toxic relationship, or it's gonna bring you down. It's gonna bring the team down. It's gonna bring everyone
yeah.
down. So I think you should really see it as a recruitment. And if you're not willing to take that person onto your team, you should not be willing to take that client into your portfolio. I
Yeah.
think you should see it in the same way.
Yeah. Now, the reality is most people who are watching this podcast are not agency owners of 500 people agencies. It's either freelancers or people who are potential clients for us, or people who are maybe have a few employees. Like that's 0.1%, 0.0001% of people would be like these huge enterprise agency owners watching this. So this is the rule for most people. The
Yeah.
reality is, yes, you can make money off people, but how much is it costing you in time, energy, effort, just like your mental bandwidth, waking up every morning? Because the clients we work with now, I'm like, I can't believe I get paid for this shit. I like them. The results are great. We're doing great work. I get
Yeah,
on a
it's like
call
working
and we're
with
just like
friends, right?
laughing.
Yeah.
And a big thing for me, and this is selfish Michael Nadalin time. I'm speaking to the microphone that's here. Earlier this year, I did Unleash the Power Within by Tony Robbins. So it's like a seminar. And it was virtual, it was online, so I couldn't go to America. And one thing that came up for me during that was, for my business, I do not want to work with businesses that are not multi-million dollar businesses, or the CEO is not a multi-millionaire themselves, because the people you surround yourself with, you become. So if I'm around business owners who are smart, they've got their business structures are good, and they've made a lot of money themselves, I'm going to learn from them and grow with them, because they're like up here compared to me financially. But because of my skill set, they see me on the same level. So I get accesses to knowledge, insights, opportunities, and they refer outstanding clients. So any client who's watching this right now who I work with, just giving you're one of them. Like if I'm working with you, it's for a reason. It's not just because I'm trying to take your money. It's because I want to work with you. If these people, if they paid me zero, which they're not, they will pay me a lot of money. As if they did, I would still feel like I'm gaining from the relationship, because the relationship is more than just the money. It's about the partnerships, the growth together. There have been times in the past where there have been clients who I'm like not inspired by, not the right people, they're rude. And I'm like, this is purely just business and money. I'm not doing that shit anymore. My life is way too short. I'm in the business of making my clients millions, not hundreds of thousands, not tens of thousands, millions of dollars. And in return, I expect that to come to me in the future through business deals or opportunities. So, I've got that mindset. when we work with clients, that is our mindset. We're here to make you a lot of money and have an amazing relationship. If we don't have, if you're not the right client or you don't feel like you're going to be the right fit for us, we're not going to take you on. So that's just me. And I'm willing to make that sacrifice now and lose money to actually help the people who I'm actually meant to help.
And that's a long-term position, and it's a long-term acquisition strategy. And I think that's really the difference between the mindset that you have in the beginning when you're sort of acquiring, getting as many clients as possible to sort of build that client portfolio so that you get things going. I get that. You have to go through that at some point. But I think after a while, you start to understand that you really need to focus on the clients that bring you the most, and your acquisition changes a lot through this.
Yeah.
And I think another way to look at it is the retention part, because basically in an agency, the three most important things are, the acquisition, the retention, and how much your average monthly revenue per client, basically,
Yeah.
right? So you want clients to spend a lot if possible, high margin if possible as well, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think my mistake maybe in the past was looking a lot at the retention metric and trying to lose, which is what you mentioned before, right? Try to lose as few clients as possible. And the thing is, we kept losing clients, and the churn was pretty high in the beginning. It was like we'd lose almost 40 to 50% of the clients, and I couldn't get my head around why that was happening. Yeah. And then that started to go down. Obviously, we implemented different project management strategies, communication strategies to make that work, because it wasn't really about the results. The results were good. We were realizing that this was about communication, and that's an interesting takeaway too. By the way, that I learned that the hard way. Sort of like, results are important. Communication is almost as important, if not even more important.
Yeah. I would say it's twice as important. Like,
it's crazy, right? People care more about the communication than the results at the end of the day. But that's funny. A lot of agencies don't believe this, or I was the first one to think that, if the results are there and you don't communicate, that's fine, but it's not. Yeah. And so the retention percentage kept going down. And then I went to, let's go to zero retention, zero churn rates, and 100% retention. And that's never really going to happen. And I think that's also coming to sort of the conclusion that you are going to lose clients at some point for several reasons.
And it sucks.
And it sucks.
It sucks. Every time it still hits me.
It does. It does. Because you might like the guy, you're having a good relationship, and, things are going well, but things happen, they might want to change, strategies, or just work with different people, or the business is not going very well, or the economics.
Most of the time, it's the business economics
Most of the time, it's the business economics. It has nothing to do with you. It's just they don't have the money anymore, or they need to invest it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But this brings us back to the acquisition. If you make sure in the acquisition strategy or in your acquisition process that you're sort of foolproofing this, you're taking on businesses that you have good relationships with, that have the types of business that you're going to be able to help. They're not a business that has a big, influence by the economy, and they're on a pretty good growth scale. They have the cash that they can spend to invest, in marketing and stuff. If you do that due diligence on most of the client in the beginning, and you bring that client on, that also brings down your churn rates and, makes everything a lot better. So I've switched now from acquiring, high volumes of clients to fewer clients, higher quality. This increases everything. It makes it better in terms of the acquisition percentage. The average revenue per client monthly increases, and the churn rate goes down. So it's tough, because you have to get to the stability before you can actually start doing this, I think. But it's about that inflection phase of, obviously in the beginning, you need to get as much as possible, then you see to stabilize, and then to grow on a stable long-term way. I think you need to do this, which is what we're doing now, basically.
Mate, I'm so glad we're even recording this and chatting about it, because this is, for me, this is honestly an unfiltered chat. Like, I'm willing to say stuff on here because I'm like, also, this is the other thing. When I'm even speaking on new business, I'll be like, I don't think we're the right fit for you. I'll even say to current clients, I don't think we're the right fit for you anymore. Like, where our business is going, we're not the right fit. And I've noticed, I think it really starts from the start, where you're really, I don't want to use the word honest, because it means that if you're being honest, then the opposite is dishonest. I think you've just got to be so crystal clear on who you are, how you work, what you do, like what's the scope, and what is not in the scope. And never, ever, ever assume that clients or businesses will operate like all of your other clients. That's what we recognized recently, that all it takes is one person to go, I didn't know that that's what it meant. Because we've been in the industry for so long, there's an assumption that we not think that clients expect the same thing. No. So I'm literally telling them how everything works, how we communicate, how often we communicate, how they're going to pay us, how this, like all the terms, like really clearly, because if we can get those things really clearly understood and agreed at the start, that's like 80 to 90% of the issues over time is just like this communication gap, like not understanding how they communicate. I said to someone on a sales call, which Jack said to me, he's like, dude, I love when you said that. It's like, if you're looking for an agency who's like answering your emails every day, that's not us. We don't do daily emails. We don't do that. We do monthly calls. We'll do fortnightly insights for us, and we'll just like bang out some emails like here and there when it's like, but we're not like these reactive freelancers who will like answer everything. That's not us. Just letting you know. And it's just being really clear, because so many people fear losing the deal when they go, oh, but I don't want to say how I actually operate because they may not want to work with us. The reality is most people won't want that. And if you tell them, they'll agree. It's the person who does want that who goes, then you're not right for us. Cool.
I think,
You don't want that client anyway.
No, you don't. And it's so much harder to do than what you just said. Like when you say it's like, yeah, of course, it's easy to say, it's easy to be honest and say what you're actually going to do. And the client will be, yes, of course. And, you know, when you're in that sales meeting and you're trying to acquire that client, it's a lot harder to do than what most people believe. And we've recently changed the value within our company, well, about a few months ago, almost a year ago now, but I think it brings that point home a bit. We changed. So we used to have transparency as one of the values of the company. We switched that to integrity. And I love that word.
I was going to say lack of transparency is our value. I'm like, dude, probably not worth saying that to people.
Transparency is, it's a bad word because it means you have to, you know, to say everything, which is not necessarily true. But integrity is extremely important because it means that you say what you think and you do what you say. And that has, you know, so much importance to me. And if I even see on the client side that they're saying stuff and they're trying to bullshit me, then that's a direct red flag. So I hate bullshitting. Like there's a slight bullshitting, you know, here and there, but most of the time you need to be crystal clear on what it is that you think, how you're going to do this, say it, and then actually do it. And I feel that if you do this, things usually work out. And it sounds really simple, but people just don't do it. And it's
I completely agree, because dude, it's so nice having all these synchronicities, because I've come from agencies where they operate a certain way, like keep clients at all costs. This is what we do, like smoke and mirrors kind of stuff. And I'm like, that hasn't worked for me. Not that I was doing that to the same extent, but I'm like, that hasn't worked. I need to do the way that works for me and us, because I prefer to be doing the way that might lose clients or make less money, but it's like I'm spending 80% less time doing stuff. I had a huge shift where a lot of agencies keep focusing on results. And it's like, dude, who doesn't? Like, we're here to get results. But one thing I've reframed internally at our company is like, clients are not paying for results, they're paying for our expertise, which means we need to say where the real gap is. Sometimes people skirt around the truth, being like, oh, the client hasn't done this thing, or we need this from them, and they haven't done it, we can't call it out. I'm just like, we're experts. We are here to get results, but we're experts. Like, we are like that, a brain surgeon or like a highly paid specialist in like a medical field. They cannot guarantee results. They're the best at getting results, and we can prove that based on like $100 million spent in ad spend and people working with us and referring to us all the time. We can show that to them, but we're not pitching ourselves based on results. We're pitching ourselves based on expertise, based on results. So by doing that, it really sets the frame that we're going to tell you this is bullshit. We're going to tell you that this is not okay. We're going to tell you this is what needs to be done, and not do it out of, but if we tell them, they might quit. It's like, I don't care. I don't want to work with businesses who don't want to do what's needed to grow their business. And I'm not like asking for things like get a new website for 50 grand and spend 100 grand on ads. It's just like, the real things that need to be done need to be done. And I don't want to be wasting 6 or 12 months every call telling you to do the same thing that you haven't done or skirting around it, because that's what happened with the client that I sent an email to say had the same issue for a year where they did not provide us really high quality content for their Facebook ads. And I'm just like, I'd been skirting around it, rebuilding landing pages, redoing ads. And the expert just was like, in me, was like, no, they're not creating the content. We're just wasting time trying to optimize a dead horse here, because without that, there's no life force. So we're finishing up. And we said, reallocate the budget you're spending to get real creative, invest in photos and videos. Like, cool, but I can't keep wasting my time and my team's energy trying to fix something in the account, which is 1%, which there's like a big 80% that if you just did this one thing, everything would fix itself. It wasn't done. We let go of the client, because I don't want to waste my or the team's time trying to do stuff like that anymore.
Especially nowadays when, as you've said in the past and that we've discussed too, is doing Google ads or Facebook ads is not just going into the account and doing some optimizations anymore. It's so much more. It's about the content. It's about the visuals. It's about the landing page. It's about Google Tag Manager. It's about, conversion optimization.
It's about the business. Dude, it's more about like
the product, the target audience. It's like, it's such a holistic thing.
The success and failure of ads is not in the ad account anymore. Like, I'm just saying that it's purely the business, because maybe 5 or 10 years ago, you could just hack the ads and then the business would change. Websites, businesses have changed now, and that you could be doing the best ads job and you're only doing 10, 20, 50%. The other 50% is the website, the business operations, fulfillment, actually the sales team. You can get all these high quality leads. If they're not calling them for a week, nothing.
That is the worst, man. When that happens, you're getting on new clients and you get them leads and they don't call them.
Bro,
this has happened to me so many times. I'm like, guys, you're paying to get leads. Call them. Yeah, but we've sent them an email. Dude, please.
I have that with a current client at the moment. They're selling high ticket products between $15 to $50,000. We're getting cost per leads of $13. Good quality leads. Firstly, too many leads, so they couldn't keep up. And then because they couldn't keep up, they were hitting up the leads from like a week ago that they couldn't hit up. And then the newer ones, they weren't getting hit up in time. And then I'm doing all these things to change the ads to try and help optimize towards more quotes and sales. It's working, but it's like, guys, if you just fixed your sales person and their sales processes, I wouldn't need to change anything, and you could be making millions more. And I can say millions more because in the last few months, they did $8 million in quotes and only $500,000 in sales. I'm like, guys, this is disgusting, the quote to sale rate. Because if any business that I've worked in or some business that I know of, if they had like $8 million in quotes and $500,000 in sales, people would be being hung outside the business. Like, they would be slaughtered. Like, that is unacceptable in sales. So the thing is, there is so much more than the advertising, and the better advertisers like you, me, or our companies are the ones who elevate above the advertising and really start to see the full business picture, because you realize a lot of times they're trying to use advertising to fix other parts of their business that are broken, and it ain't. It's just not going to work.
One thing that we've started doing with our campaigns now is every time something's not performing as well, or it's let's say, we get your example of you're having a lot of leads coming in and they're not converting those leads into sales. You might sometimes get into this conversation, well, they're saying that your leads are bad and you're saying that their sales team is bad, right? You sometimes get into that sort of confrontation, right?
No one says the market leads are bad because we have the word lead in our name. That's one thing we do not get feedback on, is that the leads are bad. So anyway, that might happen at Simba Digital,
Fair enough.
Not at market lead.
Fair enough, but
just tricky. We loved it, Simba.
Even though the leads are good quality, there might be this discussion of them or there's the sales team basically complaining on the lead quality.
Yeah.
And I think to mitigate that and to sort of reduce the risk, one thing that we've done now is every time we launch any sort of campaign, we always say, okay, this is what we're going to run. These are the potential outcomes in terms of number of leads. If you get these amount of leads and you sort of pre-organize, okay, what's your current conversion rate or lead to sales rate? Okay, it is 20%, 30%, whatever it is. And you set up that scenario. And I think setting up the whole scenario from start to finish, from impression all the way to sale with the client, showing them the stats, what's this going to produce in terms of investment. These are the amount of leads that you're going to get. Out of these leads, this should produce this amount of conversions and sales, right? And you're getting
Yeah.
the conversion rates on all these different KPIs and the whole funnel, basically. And then once you get the results, you get to the end, you're like, okay, we've produced the amount of impressions, clicks, leads that we're supposed to. It's not going very well on the lead to sales part, on that conversion rate. So instead of going into this sort of argument of, the leads are bad or the sales team is bad, let's look at the different options. Okay, there's
Yeah.
different options. Option one, leads are bad quality. Why are they bad quality? Because we're not in the right target audience, the message is bad, or the product is bad, or the pricing is bad. Like, there's a lot of different areas that you can check on there. So we have this sort of checklist. Okay, this isn't going very well. Why? Or if it's not the lead quality, let's see you've gone through the lead quality checklist and this checks out. Okay, let's look at the sales quality checklist. Like, are you calling them within 24 hours? Are you having a good sales pitch? Who's making these calls? Is their English good? Or whatever. You
Yeah.
have this sort of checklist on that side too, and you look at this together as a team, and you point out the different things together. And I've realized also, when they see this and they realize, well, actually, and you're going into detail on all these different things, so we're helping them also a bit on the sales side.
Yeah.
I guess you have to. And that helps them also realize that there are some pretty easy things that they can optimize on their side when you're getting high quality leads to improve their conversion rate on the sales side. And I think,
Sure.
that's our expert part as well. And that's where
Yeah.
we're just more than marketers, right? Because
Yeah.
we're actually helping them on their business. And I think
Yeah.
so many agencies focus on, the clicks, the leads, the impressions, the creatives, and so on. And they basically stop there. And I think at least what we try to do is to go the extra mile and help them even on other things, because we've seen, I don't know how many companies I've seen now doing this, but 200, 300, 500, 400 companies. And most of them make the same mistakes, or at least
Yeah.
similar mistakes. So we're you gain that experience, and you can help them out. And so during these monthly meetings, trying to go through these checklists, point things out. And then I agree with you. If you see that they're not improving that month over month, at some point we're just like, guys, we cannot do more than what we can do. So
Yeah.
if you're not happy with this, then we just have to stop it.
Yeah.
But most of the time, if you've done your acquisition well and you're getting those good clients that you want to work with in with you, then they actually do that job, and you can see that company grow. And it's
Yeah.
super satisfying for me to see when a client's company is going well, because
Yeah.
you've given them advice. They didn't necessarily pay for that advice, that sales advice, whatever. It doesn't matter. You get to keep that client for years to come. They're going to refer you to other people and so on. So I think our strategy is more of a long-term reputation building, growth strategy, whereas these other agencies are a bit more short-term, money-oriented, super high growth, and really low quality of life sort of strategies, I would say.
Yeah.
So it's a different approach. And I think in the long run, it's much more advantageous the way we do it than what our other agencies do.
Dude, that was amazing. Because when you were just talking about the advertising side and the sales side and going through those checklists, we've got something internally, like a actual tool built out called the gap analysis tool, where it will be for Google Ads or Meta Ads, is we'd start to look through all the key metrics and seeing if it's hitting benchmarks. So number one is, are we getting, are the search terms relevant? Like, this is Google Ads. Are the search terms relevant? Yes or no? And it'll color code it. Number two is, are we getting enough clicks? Yes or no because of budget, or no because of an impression share. So trying to identify that. Number three is CTR good? Like, is it up or higher? Number four is quality score. Number five is lead volume. Are we getting enough leads? And then conversion rate as well. And cost per conversion, because we can see, is that above our KPIs or lower? So that's just the Google Ad side. On Meta, we've got CTR. What is CTR? CPM, conversion rate, cost per lead. Now, why I do that is because they're the main metrics, or the numbers that we can start to go yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and figure out where the gap is. And then by doing that gap analysis on the ad side, we can be clear. The thing is, when they're all looking good and we're still getting feedback that the leads are not good, we also have the ability to see the quality of the leads, being it who it came from, some profiling questions. And I'm like, look, I know when there's a gap in the ads, and that's what we're paid to optimize. And I'm really clear on figuring out where the specific gap is. So then if we fix that one thing, everything fixes, because it usually is just that one thing that fixes everything. But as time's going on now, I'm starting to see more and more with clients, it's not the ad side anymore. Not because we're so great, which we are. It's more that they're not, their business is not set up to actually handle new high quality leads at that volume. Now, I know that sounds like, wow, like, yeah, if I could get that many leads, I could. It's actually hard. Like that happens to us. We get a lot of inbound leads and we can't keep up with them purely because it's like, it's hard to manage leads. You know, people have expectations. You got to get to them in time. Their intent is high in the moment, then it drops off. So recognizing that, similar to you, we're already good at conversion rate optimization and landing pages, but most people who do ads are not focused on that. That's 50% of the job. 50% is the traffic. The other 50% is the website experience. The ads get the traffic, the page gets the conversion or the sale. So if you have no expertise there, you're not going to help the client. And then as the technology in our market's changing so much, you need to have a broader horizon about how business works. Leads or like traffic. And then you got to understand conversions, and then you got to understand sales, and then fulfillment, and then retention and referrals, like in terms of the client. Because if you don't know that stuff, they're not, because they don't. Most of the time, the clients don't actually are aware of their business, and then we're doing more business consulting with them than actual advertising. So,
Yeah,
mate, I know exactly. And this is like the real talk right now. Once again, this podcast is no bullshit one right now, because the reality is you can do an amazing job in ads, which we do, and still not enough. And you can either blame the client, or you could go, what do I need to do to elevate above to help the client get the result where they're not paying us for that, but it's what they need.
And all of this is assuming that the product's good, because that's probably the most emotional, difficult conversation to have with the client. We're saying, people don't adhere or don't like what you're actually offering. You need to tinkle, you need to switch stuff within your product or service.
I said that to the business today. That was the one. I'm like, I was saying to the business consultant we work with, I'm like, why don't they have any photos or videos? And it's like, I don't know. I'm like, why aren't they getting more referrals? I'm like, is their product even that good? I'm like, I'm not convinced it is. From the photos I've seen, I'm like, I'm not like there's no wow factor here. And you can't advertise your way out of like not having a wow factor. So I was just like, I don't think the product is as good as we've been told.
That's true. And as ads agencies, it's tough for us to gauge that, because you don't really know. Like, we advertise for a lot of stuff, and I sort of just assume that what they're doing is good, right? That the product or service is actually high quality. Like, we don't work with people who start out anymore. So it's businesses that are established, they have clients, it's running, they're making money and so on. So you're like, these guys are doing a good job. But sometimes you realize they're actually not. And you're like, okay, well, this sucks. So we're advertising for a company that's doing a crappy job. They're not getting any referrals, any reviews and testimonials and stuff. And that's a tough one when you need to also talk about the product or service, right? So that's an interesting one when you have to go there. But I think sometimes you need to have that conversation and also tell them, how do you work on your product and your service? And you also see this in the retention metrics. I also wanted to ask you this. We've seen, especially in e-commerce, a lot of clients, like, we're good at acquisition for them. But obviously acquisition, the ROAS on acquisition in e-commerce is getting tougher and tougher. It's really hard to get very high multiples on acquisition. So when we bring on new clients in e-commerce, we tell them straight up, you will probably not make a lot of money on acquisition. The money in e-commerce is made on retention. You have to keep those clients. You have to make them come back. You have to upsell. You have to cross-sell. You need email marketing strategies. You need all this stuff. And they're like, let's, most of the time they say yes. And then you tell them you need to build it. You get the acquisition. They don't build it. They're low ROAS on the acquisition. And they're like, what the hell's going on? And so we've tried to start working on the retention strategies more and more. For some reason, it's still a tough sell. We have difficulties here in Switzerland to have people understand how important email marketing is. People still have a pretty bad view of that strategy. But I think it's like, we discussed ads, we discussed landing pages, we discussed sales. But that part, the retention, getting these people to come back and buy more. Like we're in a retainer business, so these people, so our clients basically are on a monthly fee, so they stick around,
Yeah.
right? Which is great. But on these one-time sales or one-time services or a thing that you buy once a year or not even, you need to have strategies to make these people come back. And so
Yeah.
many businesses totally forget about that. They don't think about it. They're like, we're producing a good service. They'll come back. Well, no,
Yeah.
no, you need
They
to
will.
speak.
People forget. People forget. So it's interesting you say that because, and this is not a flex. Most of our e-commerce clients go really well with their ROAS, and they're already doing good email marketing and they've got other things. But the
Very
reality
important.
is this: if your ROAS is 3 or 4, you could turn that into a 6 to an 8 immediately in 6 months by just doing email marketing. One of the best attitudes is to have is treat the first sale as a loss leader, and then you'll make your money on the back end, which means that anything you
Exactly.
made on the front end is pure profit. We've got I'm still in my mind, and I love that you say this because I need to program that into me because I'm still so focused on profit on the front end, which is good to clients and it makes us look good. But the reality is it's probably not serving them because then they're getting less sales volume, which means that they're not getting these opportunities to upsell in the future. But you're right. If they don't have those Klaviyo sequences set up, it's like if they don't know that stuff, then it's just once again trying to find the right clients who actually
Yeah, and
understand and do, more importantly,
exactly.
do
And
it.
I think it's like looking at, so for same thing for us, right? For such a long time, we were focused on just the ROAS of the ads.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the ROAS. Okay, if you're doing above 4x on Facebook ads, that's good. If you're going below, it's bad. Basically, very simple. But at the end of the day, it's a bad way to look at it. You should look at how is the influence of your ads doing on the overall revenue of the business.
Mm.
And the acquisition of new clients, I think even looking at the ratio of when you sales on the website, new clients versus returning clients. So even if your ROAS is not as good, let's say it's 2 or 3 or whatever, which is not amazing, right? It's pretty bad. You're probably losing money on that.
Yeah, you're
The fact
definitely
that you're
losing money
getting a
on
lot of new clients,
that.
still, if you have a good retention strategy, that will add up over time. And in many businesses, losing money on the acquisition is normal and it's fine. But you do need to have that ladder
Yeah.
that's building up in the back end. And
Yeah.
I see there's so much more money to be made on the back end and in the retention than there is in the acquisition. That's what I
There
tell all
is.
my,
All the money's made on the back end. People don't
of
realize
course.
that. But the thing is, they're so keen to hire an agency for their Google ads. Like for every business that's like for every 10 e-commerce businesses looking for a Facebook and a Google ads agency, maybe 1 out of 10, sorry, is probably doing email marketing. Like it's just not in there. It's not in the sphere of understanding. It's still a very old school approach of just run ads to the page, get sales, get good ROAS, repeat, rather
Yeah,
than
and I think
going,
there's
it,
this sort of people believe that if they had a good experience once, then they will automatically come back and buy from you without even thinking.
no,
Like,
not in
guys,
this world,
remember,
bro. Not in this
not
world now.
not in this world. Remember that these people have 24 hours in a day. They're getting their attention, taken from everywhere.
Yeah.
They will not think about you at all. They will forget about you all the time, and you need to stay there. Make sure that you're communicating with them. That can be email, it can be SMS, it can even
Yeah.
direct mail here in Switzerland works great.
Mm.
It's weird, I know, but it does. So direct
Awesome.
mail, any other sort of stuff, flyers, man. I thought that stuff didn't exist anymore. It works super good here in Switzerland,
Yeah.
which is really strange, but the retention and the making sure that people remember you and that they come back for more is extremely important. And as you say, people don't think about it. They think about the acquisition and forget about the fact that, and then they're running like a hamster in a wheel, trying to
Mm.
get new clients, new clients, new clients, new clients. We always say this: it's easier to sell to someone who's already bought from you than it is to sell to someone who's never bought from you. So focus on them instead.
Yeah. Well, that's the simplicity. And even chunking back up or going back up to the original point we are talking about is like that old agency approach is you've got to be clear. If you're taking on clients who want a lot of ROAS on the front end, like we do that because we can do that. But now of this discussion, it's like, yeah, like that might be a old approach. Like that might be a dying approach. Like once again, I'm not saying this to make excuses. We are getting really strong ROAS for our clients, but it may be not actually serving them fully for their future. And I think even what we're talking about, once again, agency, the BS of it, and just the challenges is if people don't understand that, you might be fighting a losing battle because they're like, oh, we need a 5x ROAS or a 4x. And you're like, dude, like, that's not going to happen regardless. Plus, you might only be getting one sale out of 10 potential, which those 10 you could have
Yeah.
upsold in 2
It's a
months.
volume question. It's a question of volume.
Yeah. And the reality is, guys, by the way, who's ever watching this, is it's different the size of the business. If they're a small business, of course they need to be making sales on the front end. But the clients that Max and I work with are usually medium to large size businesses now. Some small, but we're navigating away from it. So at different levels of your business or agency and the different levels of the client's business, different strategies are going to work. Like that whole, you do need a high ROAS if it's a small new business because it's bootstrapped. Cash just needs to rotate. But if in that level where they're making good money, that's when they can be operating at a lower ROAS and focus a bit more on the medium term. And then as they're bigger, focus on the long term. So these are obviously biased based on our experiences and the type of clients we're working with. Because most businesses or e-commerce businesses are still small where these strategies won't work for them because they just won't be able to afford it over a long enough time horizon.
No, that's true. And I think it's definitely for people starting out. But even then, I think once again, since it's a volume thing, we've seen accounts like we've had leads recently, people coming into us and they had a Google Ads account. This is a European company, e-commerce selling across 15 countries, and they had a solid ROAS, like 15 ROAS on the front end on their Google Ads accounts, and they in Switzerland. And they contacted us and they said, yeah, well, we'd like to get this 15x ROAS to 25. And I said, well, okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's a bit weird, right?
Fair enough.
Like, okay.
What is it? Just branded search and retargeting on PMax?
I don't know. It was strange. I was like, okay, why do you want to pick this up to 25x? And so I looked at the account, and most of it was search and PMax, target ROAS, 1,500%.
Yeah.
The tracking was set up in a strange way because they didn't want to work with Google, so they're working with this external sort of tool. And I was like, well, guys, honestly, you're already doing 13x ROAS. You don't need to go to 25. We could probably get you up there, but it will reduce your volume. Let me suggest this. Let's bring your ROAS down to 7 or 8, but multiply the amount of sales by 3 or 4. And let's go volume-wise, right? Because you're going to acquire a lot more clients doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, your front-end ROAS is going to go down, but who cares? You're going to get these new clients. These clients are going to go into your retention strategies, and they're going to buy from you, and you're going to grow that way. And they're like, oh, that's pretty smart. And I was like, yeah, that's how you do e-commerce. And I was surprised because this is a big company. It's a big German company. Like they have, it's a holding. So they have, 10 different companies. I'm like, I'm surprised that they even asked us to get from 13x to 25x ROAS. I'm like, that's a super weird sort of way to look at it. Because you can get high ROAS, but high ROAS usually means low volume. If you want to get higher, then you expand volume, you get lower ROAS. So it's finding the right balance, that works for you, obviously. But yeah, and I think even when you start out, obviously it's tough to accept that you're going to lose money on the front end. But that's the reality of e-commerce. I think if you want to make money early on, you need to go on high ticket or high value products or services. Yeah. It's very tough to be profitable straight away.
It is.
With
ad costs are going up, more competition. If you've got a good product, then someone's going to rip you off. It's a tough industry, e-commerce now. Maybe 5 or 10 years ago with that drop shipping, it was hard. And these are the realities of you and me being agency owners, doing onboarding and sales calls and doing like the unit economics. It's like, we see the reality. Like so many people be like, yeah, the numbers look good. It's like, we work with dozens of clients. So have you, and hundreds over the years. It's like, you see a pattern. And yes, they may be an outlier, but it's like, not everyone's an outlier. Not everyone's the unicorn. So just assume that every business you work with is at the average and make decisions based on that. Because if you set the expectations too high or the benchmarks or the KPIs too high, you're only doomed to fail. Because if you hit them like 1% of the time, it's good. But the rest of the time, you're just going to be stressed and focusing on stuff and trying to like squeeze blood out of stone. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And maybe someone else can do it. Maybe some freelancer, maybe someone else who's willing to take on the challenge. But the reality is when your time, energy, and focus is so finite because we're humans, it's better just to play the game or die on the hill that you're willing to die on. Like work with clients who have reasonable KPIs and you genuinely feel like you can hit them. That's it.
Yeah, that's a good way to summarize it. And I think at the end of the day, also, like the world evolves, we have all these new tools, these new things that changes. You know, AI is obviously a big change nowadays, but at the end of the day, it's all back to fundamentals. It's all
Yeah.
back to, you know, having a good product, having a good service, targeting, you know, a good audience, having
Yeah.
good content that resonates with that audience. And, you know, the way to get that ad to that audience changes. Like before it was TV and you know, newspapers, now it's Google ads and Facebook ads. That
Yeah.
might change, but at the end of the day, those are only tools to get your message out to the right people.
That's right.
If your message or your product or service isn't doing well, if your sales process isn't doing well, if the structure of your company isn't doing well, it won't work. So get that right first. And I love when a client comes to me and has a good business and I see it's a solid product or service. They have a
Yeah.
good target audience, and they just need to turn on the advertising switch and it's going to work. Like you feel it.
Yeah.
And it's like, thank you for coming to me, because I know that I'm going to help you, you know, grow
Yes.
this shit like really well, because you've done such a good job so far.
Yeah.
And the opposite is terrible, when someone comes in sort of the last resort and their product is bad and nothing's working, and like, can you do some advertising for me? No, I can't, because you're just going to waste your money.
Yeah.
And it's, I love it when these clients come and they're like, wow, dude, I want to have your business. Could we, could we exchange roles here?
I know,
'Cause,
and that's the
you know,
thing. And those are not rare, because a lot of good businesses are still not advertising. And I literally say
yeah,
to prospects now, like the 20% of the time they're the right fit, I'll go to them. I think we're the right fit for you. And I'll say it just like that. I'm like, your business, your product, your service, your advertising opportunities, it makes sense. I think we're the right fit. And I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't mean it, because I don't want to be fighting uphill battles. I want us to be fighting downhill battles. But the thing is, they don't have the expertise to execute. They've got the business in a really good position of good product, good positioning, good prices, good potential with like good audiences or good keyword potentials. And then all we do is execute it. And we're just going into this strips, like this, like fast lane. Most of the time with like a lot of businesses, you're like trying to dodge and like move around stuff. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So much time and money's wasted. And look, someone else will take that on, but they're going to take on all the stress and the responsibilities that it's just over time, you just realize it's just not worth. Like, you want it to always be win-win, where the client wins 10 out of 10 and you win 10 out of 10, being paid well and doing work that's actually not easy, but practical and simple, that's aligned with your skill set or your agency.
yeah.
So,
And it's so satisfying at the end of the day. We have this Excel sheet. You love, obviously, Excel sheets as
oh
well.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a common passion that Michael and I
Yes.
have, Excel and Google Sheets on building dashboards and stuff. But having this client dashboard and, you know, having these, so we have colors, right? To if an account is doing, so we have red, orange, and green. If the account's doing well, and then you have the relationship, red, orange, green. And it's so satisfying when you get to the end of the month and you see everything's just green.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's results are good, relationships good. You can just sit there and, you know, you're happy, your client's happy, your team's happy, and, you know, no stress, and you can continue, you know, working on growing the business long term and doing
Yeah.
this stuff. Obviously there will be difficult times. We had a very difficult time at the beginning of the year for several reasons. But, you know, I think if you stay close to the fundamentals, to the values of growth, and get the acquisition of the clients that you want to work with, do a good job, make sure that you're transparent and no, not transparent, that you have integrity.
Integrity, yes.
And that you produce these things well for the clients, everything will do well. So I think that's overall a good takeaway for the conversation today.
Awesome, mate. I love it. So, Max, how can people find you? Let people know your website and your social media.
Well, so Simba Digital, simba-digital.ch/en if you're an English speaker. So we work from Switzerland, mostly with Swiss and European companies, but if you're international, happy to chat with you as well. You can find me on LinkedIn, Max Andersson. There's a ton of Max Andersons out there, so it's pretty difficult to find, but I believe it's LinkedIn-Max Andersson 9.
Yeah.
So we have a podcast. It's called La Savane, so it's in French. It's the Savannah. So our idea around Simba Digital is basically that, you know, Simba obviously being the Lion King, every company, we see them as a small lion that we're helping to grow within the savannah.
Yes, a
And so we're
cub.
starting. Exactly. It's a cub growing as becoming the king of their savannah.
Yeah.
And so we started this podcast interviewing entrepreneurs in Switzerland, very successful entrepreneurs, sometimes people who are not really starting out, but some younger entrepreneurs. We've started a community here, also trying to bring the entrepreneurial community together. So I'm really enjoying. I don't see myself as a marketer anymore. Maybe I did more in the past. Now I see myself more as an entrepreneur, lover of business, interested in everything that's
Mm.
going around business and trying to work on this. So feel free to reach out if you want to have a chat, or if you want to talk marketing or business or anything. More than happy to chat
Awesome,
about it.
mate. Well, really appreciate your time. Thank you, Max. This has
Thanks,
been
Michael. This has been
55
great.
minutes of gold. So
This
everyone, check Max out. If you
was
can't find him through, oh, geez, my calendar's binging off now. Yeah, you can find him
yeah,
through my LinkedIn as well. I'll tag him, and then I'll put all your things in the show notes underneath. So Max,
sure.
thank you for
Go
your
ahead.
time, mate.
Thanks, Michael. Awesome time. Always a great chat with you.